Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm really sorry for this being so delayed. Initially it was scheduled at 6:15 UK time, but I had a guest on my channel. I'm going to be posting a two-part video series with Ben Jacobs, and it ran a little bit later than expected, but we're back and doing live videos once again, and I'm joined by Kendall. We did this last season. I'm finally getting back into doing it this season. Ken, thanks so much for joining. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, thank you. It's actually really nice, really nice to be back. I know we both haven't done as much content lately as we did last season, but yeah, we're back and it's a good season. Well, for some, it's a good season for some, and not for others. But yeah, really excited to get back talking about football again.
Yeah, so if there's anything that you guys want us to talk about, if there's any graphics that you want to see going forward, let me know, because I really do want to try to make this interactive. So thank you guys so much for joining. Really appreciate you watching, and we're going to be doing this really at the same time every week. We'll kind of let us know what time works better for you, like 7:30 my time, 6:30 UK-ish time. Let us know. And we're going to do a Premier League Game Week 10 weekend roundup. I'm in a good mood because Chelsea finally got a win. I just have to laugh about it, otherwise I'll cry. But let's just go through all of the games, and I want to start with one of the big games of the weekend, the Manchester Derby. Manchester United, I think they were playing at home. Yes, Manchester United versus Man City. United squeak out a win 2-1. And there was a massive controversy in this game. Of course, if their equalizer should have counted. Bruno Fernandes scores the goal, but Marcus Rashford was in an offside position. He didn't touch the ball, but there's debate around whether he interfered with play. So, Kendall, what did you make about this goal? Should it have counted?
Well, when I looked at it, I didn't watch the game because obviously Man United are kind of our little league rivals this season, because we're there and thereabouts. We're on the same points at the moment, so I really obviously kind of wanted Manchester United to lose. Well, a draw would have been a great result for me, with Man City and Man United, because we're kind of sandwiched in between them now. But so I didn't actually watch the game in real time. I just saw stills of it afterwards, and I was actually quite shocked that the goal was given, because I had read up on the offside rules again, just to double check that everything was right, that I was thinking in my head, and it was obviously a stipulation of being offside. I don't know whether they changed it, because there was talk on Twitter. Apparently they changed it at the beginning of the season, but apparently interference of play is part of being offside. And I thought, to me, you didn't really know who was going to shoot, and I thought Marcus Rashford was probably interfering with play there a little bit. But again, it very controversial. There's been a couple of controversial calls this weekend once again. I feel like I'm saying that every week. But yeah, I was surprised that it had stood. A lot of people are obviously defending it, saying, by the laws of the game, then it is a goal, it's not offside, or Marcus Rashford wasn't interfering with play. But yeah, I was surprised it was given, because we've seen controversial calls a million times before. So but to be fair to Man United, away from the goal, they were actually probably the better team. Specifically, I would say the second half. Man City I don't know what's happened to them. They just don't look, not that they're not good, because they are. It's just they don't look like the Man City that run away with everything every season and just look so good going into every single game. But it was a really good game.
Yeah, even when Man City played Chelsea, it felt like Chelsea actually had played quite well, and I felt we're like a bit unlucky to draw against Man City. So I don't think that they've been, at their highest level, so to speak. But going back to the goal, I just feel like if you're Ederson, you see Marcus Rashford, the pass seemed to be clearly intended for Marcus Rashford. So even if he doesn't touch it, in my opinion, it does look like he's interfering in play. Obviously, if you're a United fan, you're going to take it. If it was a call like in favor of my team, I would sure as hell take it as well. But I do feel that it was a bit harsh on City, and it really just changed the entire game, flipped it on its head. 3 minutes later, United go and scored the winner, and suddenly now they're I don't want to say they could be challenging for a title potentially. But they're fourth in the table, tied on points with Newcastle, 1 point behind City. What do you think? Like, could this be maybe, top four sealed or a title charge for Manchester United late in the season?
Yeah, again, I'm like you. I don't want to rush in anything and say title charge, but they look really good under Ten Hag. Again, he is getting the best out of players like Marcus Rashford, who for the past few years is admittedly himself struggled at Manchester United, and there's players like him, like Bruno, who seem to be playing their best football again. Obviously they've added really, really good players in the likes of Casemiro, who I think has been a genuinely incredible addition to that Manchester United side. But yeah, they look good. As much as it pains me to say it, but they really do look good again. For the first time in a long time, I think they look like the Manchester United of old, who would play really, really good football, really exciting football to watch. So yeah, it's funny because we're almost midway through the season now. Well, we are midway. Some of us are midway through the season. I mean, we've played 19 games, so that's really midway through the season now. So you never know what's going to happen. This season has been, up till now, very, very interesting. From top to bottom of the table, it's just so tight. So yeah, we'll see whether Arsenal have a little bit of a drop off and Manchester United can get in there.
Yeah, so you guys watching in the comments, let us know what you thought about the Man United Man City game. Do you think that equalizer should have stood? Let us know in the comments. And talking about a crazy season, I'm going to transition to a pretty crazy result, which was Brighton 3-0 Liverpool, which I just couldn't believe. But at the same time, Brighton have been having a good season. Liverpool haven't been having such a good season, but I just never fathomed Liverpool to be losing by these big margins. So in this match, Brighton absolutely dominated Liverpool. They had 16 shots, 9 on target to Liverpool's 6 with 2 on target. They dominated them in possession as well. They had 61% possession. And currently, Brighton are sitting above Liverpool in the table in 7th. So first, I just want to talk about the goals a bit because I did think that they were fantastic. And for the first goal, Matip gave the ball away directly to Brighton. SMASH scores. I think that Liverpool really seemed to be missing Van Dijk, and when he's not in the team, it just feels like a massive hole. And the second goal as well, another brilliant finish by SMASH. So what did you make of this game? And I want to get into what's happening at Liverpool, but I also want to give Brighton a little bit of praise as well because it was another dominant display by them.
Yeah, as you say, just completely dominated that game. Whenever I've watched Brighton this season, a lot of the time they are dominating games. I love their link-up play. The flow of Brighton's play is really, really good. And when they lost Potter, I think everyone was a little bit concerned that, the manager would come in, the next manager, and not be able to do with the players what Potter had previously done. But De Zerbi has done a fantastic job. It almost... They look even better than I've ever seen them. They look really, really, really good. It's genuinely crazy. Welbeck as well. His goal and Solly March is again. He's almost an Almiron because he had 9 goals I think in 136 appearances. And he scored 2 the other day against Liverpool. So Brighton look really, really good. And I must admit, every time I watch them, I really, really like them. Levi Colwill, who you'll know very well, had a fantastic game once again. Every time I've watched him play, he's had a brilliant game. The likes of Mitoma, who is again another player that's probably goes under the radar a little bit just simply because of the fact he plays for Brighton, but he looks so good. Obviously, they've got a World Cup winner now in McAllister, so yeah, they look really, really good. But to go on to Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp said this is the worst defeat of his career, and obviously it's not probably the biggest, but he did say in his press conference, I don't know whether it's today or yesterday, that it was one of the worst defeats of his career, and I think it's just because of the way things are going at the moment. He's really struggling, the team's really struggling. They are missing a lot of players, but the players that they've got now are just not stepping up to the plate. Obviously, they signed Gakpo amidst interest from other clubs like Manchester United, and I just don't know what's going on with Liverpool at the moment. Klopp said himself that defensively they're just not good this season, which is something that they've prided themselves on for a lot of the past few years now, especially since obviously getting Van Dijk in. They have looked really, really solid defensively, and at the moment they're just not. So yeah, it's going to be a strange season for Liverpool. You guys in Liverpool are almost in a similar situation where it's just you're not performing to the levels that everyone expects, and yeah, it's going to be, I mean, it's good for the likes of us, for example, because we can kind of capitulate on teams that would normally be where we are right now. But yeah, for obviously the fans and stuff, and for yourselves and for Liverpool fans, it's just not good to watch. But yeah, Klopp seems to be under a little bit of pressure, but I don't think he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. I think they'll still back him for now. They're up for sale, so I can't see them paying a manager to leave if they're expecting some sort of investment along the way.
That was literally going to be my next question to you, because it's kind of getting to this 7-year mark that I've seen people speculating with Klopp. Like, once he gets to 7 years at a club, then he kind of starts to move on. And if there's any Liverpool fans in the chat, definitely let us know your thoughts on this season. And for me, I just, I was rewatching some highlights, and I saw one moment in particular that Salah had the ball. It looked like he was 100% going to score. And I feel like if he had just a little bit more confidence, he scores that opportunity. But then Sanchez comes out and blocks it. And I think, well, that's the opportunity. Those are the types of things that Liverpool definitely have to score, but they just look like they're second guessing themselves. They're low on confidence. And in the back, it feels like once they concede one goal, you just don't know if they're going to be able to come back, and maybe they concede a couple of more. So I thought that this was, a pretty crazy game. And, Brighton now have big wins against so many teams, in top teams. They have big wins against Liverpool, against Chelsea. I think I saw a couple of others as well. And so kind of thinking about this, maybe putting my Chelsea hat on a little bit, but do you think like it could be, maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but do you think it could be a positive that we're seeing Brighton, a team that Graham Potter developed for so many years, kind of come and beat these bigger teams, even though that he's not there? They kind of have the system that he had implemented.
Yeah, I think they definitely have built on what Potter has done, because Potter was so good and was lauded, and this is the reason why he got the Chelsea job in the first place. So he done really well. He did fantastically with Brighton for the amount of years that he was there. I don't have a negative to say about Potter at all in that regard. So yeah, I think it's definitely a positive, and I know that Potter can do good things with Chelsea. That's not even a question to me. I know that he can. It's just Brighton recruit well. They always have recruited well since they got promoted to the Premier League, and they have always played really, really good football as well. So I think De Zerbi's come in. Obviously, not really many people knew a lot about him. I think was he from Shakhtar? Did they get him from Shakhtar Donetsk? I feel like they did, or something like that. So not a lot of people knew a lot about him, but yeah, he's done well in the league, and we've got to get a little guess now. He's done really, really well in the league, and he hasn't took any time to develop at all. So yeah.
Just moving right along, just want to say hi to everybody who's watching in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to be having this show back weekly every Monday night, so make sure to lock it in on your calendars as well. And just to interact a bit with the viewer comments, Jack Ramsey says, obviously not a Liverpool fan, but all good teams have their day. A lot of Liverpool players have been in that team for ages and have been found out. Same with Spurs. And I think Liverpool just had this identity of how they played, and it's true that clubs couldn't figure them out because they just dominated possession and they dominated chances, and now you're kind of seeing like, okay, if you can isolate this player isn't at the same level that they were. They don't have Van Dijk in the team anymore. They are getting a bit found out anymore. But Jack, I'm going to move to the game that we both know well, which was Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Chelsea get their first win since Bournemouth, the 27th. I think that's like 2 wins in 9 or 2 wins in 10. But honestly, I tweeted, we won finally. I was just so happy to get a win. But Kendall, kind of as a neutral, we haven't spoken about this at all. So what do you kind of make what's been happening with Chelsea this season? And then I kind of give like my views as somebody like a bit closer to it.
Yeah, I've said before, a lot of people are getting on Potter's back, and I've said, look, the problems at Chelsea, I wouldn't even necessarily call them problems. It's just what is going on at Chelsea is far deeper than the manager. You've got a lot of injuries. Again, Reece James out for a long amount of time. Ben Chilwell out for a lot of time. There's more players. Kante again out. So there's a lot of players that have been out for a number of months now, who are big parts of the team. The likes of keeper situation, who we had Mendy. Mendy was great, had a really great season, obviously goalkeeper of the year and things like that, and then now we've gone on to the point where now Kepa is back in and he's number one. So there's been a lot of changes. There's been ownership changes, obviously, which is a big difference. There's been a lot of investment in the squad as well. Spent a significant amount of money. Players are going to need to bed in, and they're going to need to understand that Graham Potter has come in midway through the first part of the season. He's not had two windows. We're now only in Graham Potter's obviously first window now. And with the way that the league is going at the moment as well, it's just a very unpredictable league. It's one of the most, I think the Premier League is always pretty unpredictable just because of the quality across the board, but I think in terms of most unpredictable seasons, this is definitely up there for me. So yeah, I just think it's just far beyond the manager. So there's no point in calling for the manager's head, because Graham Potter is a really good coach. And we're obviously about to see it. We're about to see how he's going to go into the window now. You have had, is it 3 incomings now, I think? Obviously, João Felix on loan.
Yep.
Mudryk as well, however you say his name, and Badiashile. So... Yep. You know, we're starting to see Graham Potter put his mark on the transfer window, whether these are obviously his signings that he wants. So yeah, I just think it's going to be a transitional phase. And at this point, I was saying this to Arsenal fans last season, the season before. Expectations of fans has got to be lowered in a situation where you are on a rebuild phase, and it's really hard to get everybody on the same page. Like really tough as a football club who is used to success, who's had recent success. It's really hard to get everybody on the same page. Fans, club, board, everyone. It is a tough job, but once everyone is on that same page, you will see positives and you will see more unity. And it's just got to come at the moment, unfortunately. And it's just one of those seasons for Chelsea. But I just think with the squad that they have and the manager in Graham Potter and the quality that squad has, I still think he'll be absolutely fine. It's just going to take its time, unfortunately. And time is we know ourselves, time is a very big luxury in football, and it's sometimes what you are not offered. But I do think that I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys know that more than I do, but I do think Bolly and the rest of the board and the hierarchy at Chelsea are looking long term. I don't think it's going to be like a cutthroat situation as in Roman Abramovich, where he would just, sack whenever things started going badly, obviously, as we've seen. So yeah, I do think it's looking at long term, and I think that's definitely what you guys need.
Yeah, no, honestly, couldn't have said it better myself. And I think, people on my channel would have heard me speak about it, but I mean, having 9, 10, 11 players that are injured, players that are probably first team players when they're starting, like that, I saw this starting, like this injured starting 11, and that team could actually like challenge for top 4 or like a title potentially. But I think specifically there's this, we have 2 players that I think are real key difference. One being N'Golo Kante. He played, I think, 1 game for us for Spurs. I think that was our best game of the season. And he got injured, and we don't really have a replacement for a player like him to come and step in. And I've noticed the other thing is, like, you're playing the same 2 players. If it's Kovacic and Jorginho or whatever, you're playing those players week in, week out, and you can't rotate them because you don't have anybody else that can come and fill in that position. So they're obviously getting tired as well. And then Reece James, I think that he is by far our best player, like by far. And we look miles different when he is in the side and when he's not in. The versatility that he brings, the creativity, bombing down the right wing, defending as well. I just think he's the full package, and we really do look a lot different. But just like you mentioned, having all of these injuries and signing these big names like Fofana, he's been out injured. And then also making some signings that really haven't gelled into the team, maybe as we would have hoped or expected, like Koulibaly, who I think has looked a little bit shakier than I would have expected as well. So Chelsea fans, I know that it's a hard time for us, for the club, but I do think that there's been so much instant gratification over the last 10 to 20 years, just because if something wasn't working out, Roman would fire them and go get the next guy. That's not going to be the case. And I think that if we go through this rebuild and we're going to kind of see more players coming in, we're seeing really exciting signings being made. Mudryk, one of them. I have a special coming out maybe later tonight on him, as well as Nkunku coming in the summer as well, maybe making a midfield buy, getting rid of some of the players that don't quite fit the system that Graham Potter's trying to play. I think that there's definitely a lot of room for growth, and it's kind of like a bit of a rough season for us. Maybe we can scrape Europa League at this point.
It's one of those things, right? When things start going wrong, everything goes wrong. It's just one of those things. Like, obviously, getting João Felix in on loan, who everyone knows that he's like one of my favourite players, and getting a red card in his debut. It's just like straight red. It's just one of those things. Honestly, it's like one of those things where everything just goes wrong. Injuries, bad results, manager change, ownership change, debutant, like massive, that you spent a massive amount on a loan. It goes and gets a red card. Like, new signings come in and get injured. It's just one of those things. And unfortunately, it happens to one team every season where things just go wrong on top of everything else, and it's just a struggle. And unfortunately, it's Chelsea's turn this time. But as I say, I do think you'll still be completely fine. You might get Europa League when everyone's back, because I do the team's way better than that when everyone's fit. But it's just everyone's out at the same time. Unfortunately, that's it's football's so cruel at times. It really is a cruel game. But it's just one of those things for Chelsea. One of those seasons for Chelsea this season, I think.
Then I'm glad that you brought up Joao Felix, because I thought that he had a fantastic debut. I was like, wow, I can't believe that we signed him even on loan. I was like, maybe we'll get to buy him from Atletico. He has a good loan. And then he got the red card, and it's like, darn it. Because he's somebody that you bring in on big money. We're paying his wages. You bring in a pretty high transfer fee for the loan, and you expect him to play, and you end up losing like $1 million or something like that just because of the red card. But I do think, he's a game changer. He looked like scoring quite a couple as well when he was on the pitch. Maybe he's somebody that we can look to in the future. I certainly loved him, and maybe, once we start getting some players back fit, I think Reece James was back training on grass as well. Ben Chilwell is somebody that we're not even talking about. We have Lewis Hall filling in, because Cucurella hasn't been starting, because he hasn't also lived up to expectations. So I think there's a lot going on, but I'm honestly kind of taking it for what it is, and that's it. But I'll move on to your team, Kendall, because you guys have quite a bit to be happy about. Currently sitting in third in the Premier League, just 1 point behind champions Manchester City, and a big win against Fulham at the weekend as well. And looking from an outsider's perspective, Newcastle have just been so rock solid at the back. I think you have the best defense in the league. But I also think, playing these tough games against Fulham, who are a good side, as we saw last week, but getting the winner, even though it was in the 89th minute, that's kind of the difference, I think, for me between a team that's challenging for top fours, being able to find those wins. So what's your breakdown? What are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, the game was not pretty at all. Obviously, I was there. We really, really struggled in terms of our finishing. In terms of playing the game, we were fine. We played okay, but just in terms of finishing, we really, really struggled. And we missed a good few chances. Obviously, we're handed a little bit of a saving grace in terms of Mitrovic not being allowed to retake his penalty because he touched it twice on the first time. And in all fairness, the penalty that was actually given was not a penalty. There was two kind of incidents within about 15 seconds of each other. And the first incident, if that had been called for a penalty, Dan Burn pulled, I can't remember which one of their players down, but pulled one of their players down in the box, and I would have understood if that was a penalty. Now I wouldn't have really complained. But the second time, their player actually stamped on Trippier, and then they got a penalty. It was very strange. The referee went over to the monitor and walked away when the second angle was being shown, which would have said clearly it wasn't a penalty. But yeah, it was just a bizarre situation. We were handed very much a get out of jail free card in terms of that penalty, because then it allowed us to just regain composure and regain a hold of the game. And obviously talking about game changes in the likes of Joao Felix and Isak for us was a complete game changer when he came on the other day. We're really lucky because, again, as I've said, time is a very big luxury in football, and we're really lucky that because our results have been good, we've been allowed to bed him back in very gradually. He is only young, and he had one of the more serious injury of his career so far, and obviously was out for a significant amount of months. Luckily, again, World Cup came at a great time for us, oddly, because it kind of allowed him that time as well. But yeah, I don't have a negative about us at the moment, and I've never ever in my whole life supporting Newcastle ever felt like that I don't have a negative to say. It's honestly like so foreign to me that I don't have anything to pick on at all. Obviously, I'm hoping the Bruno injury is not serious, because Bruno is, and since the day he's come in, he's had one bad game for over a year now. He's had one, and I wouldn't even say it was bad, it just wasn't Bruno levels, and it wasn't his usual levels. And obviously he came off injured and was really, really upset and crying about it. So I'm just hoping that injury is not serious. But luckily, it's come at the right time if it is serious, because we are in a transfer window, and we can obviously maybe utilise the market a bit to our advantage. But yeah, Fulham played well. I'm not going to say that they didn't. They played very, very, very well. And I think they're playing well, and I think Marco Silva is doing an absolutely fantastic job at Fulham. But yeah, we were just very, very lucky, and overall, I think it was probably a deserved draw, if that's what it was going to be. But yeah, we just had that little bit of key difference, which we've never ever had in the past. We've always just, damage limitation, and if it was 0-0, it was 0-0. But yeah, I'm really, really, I know it's annoying everyone that it's annoying to other fans that I'm so positive, but I just can't ask for any more than what we're doing at the moment. Best defence in the league. And yeah, we're third in the Premier League in only a year after our takeover. So yeah, I just cannot complain at all.
I mean, it's been massive as well, because you went from fighting relegation last season, and then, having the January transfer window and coming right back up. And then now I wouldn't say that you're necessarily like fighting for a Premier League title just yet. 8 points is quite a big difference. But next season perfectly could happen. And just to give it a little bit of transfer talk as well, I did see today that you're linked with Hakeem Ziyech and Conor Gallagher.
I did see that. Look, since the World Cup, I have been shouting for Ziyech. I have been saying, get me this guy at my club. You don't understand, we need a winger. I really, really want Ziyech at my club. I thought he was brilliant in the World Cup, and I thought he did really, really well. And we need an attacking midfielder / winger / just some sort of creative player. He would be perfect. And I really, really want him. Conor Gallagher, I'm not so sure on, because I really liked Conor Gallagher when he was at Crystal Palace, and I thought, you know what, this kid's going to be a really, really good footballer. And he's just not. He just has not even touched the levels that he was before. So I'm a bit he's not who I would necessarily go for midfield. But if that's going to be the case, then I'll obviously back him. But yeah, Ziyech, bring Ziyech. I have been shouting so long for this guy. If we get him, I'll be so, so happy with Ziyech, because he's just exactly what we need. And I think he probably, even you guys will probably admit yourselves as Chelsea fans, he probably just needs a little bit of a change of atmosphere. A change, and we'll see where it goes. Even if it's on loan, I'll take him, because we are desperate for some creativity now. Desperate.
Yeah, the thing with Hakeem Ziyech is that he has these spells, at least for Chelsea, he has these spells where he's been absolutely brilliant, and then he has these other spells where he's just a bit absent in games, and then he Chelsea do have so many attackers, and we've kind of been like chopping and changing, so he doesn't get a straight run of game time either, which I don't think is really conducive to anybody who's trying to play. I think you kind of need to be playing week in, week out in order to start stringing together good performances. And so it's just kind of been a bit up and down. I did think that he had one of his better matches against Crystal Palace, but then the thing is, like, at least for us, you just don't know if he's going to keep that level of performance in the next match. But I do think that he's such a talented player, and we saw that, for Ajax, we saw that in the World Cup. So maybe if he signs for Newcastle, it's the kind of change of pace, change of environment that he needs, and he'll be able to go on and do great things. Who knows? Moving on to the last game that we're going to be talking about. It was a massive London derby. Spurs 0, Arsenal 2. And really, just another poor game for Spurs. I thought that they looked a bit drab in the first half. Then it was a little bit too little too late in the second half. Maybe needed to be a bit more clinical as well. The first goal was just pretty poor from Luis, in my opinion. Think he could have done better to keep that out. But Arsenal as well, just looking so strong, and I really felt that the game management from them was very good, because they attacked in the first half and then they defended well in the second half. Spurs had little bits throughout the game, but they rode those waves. What did you make of this match?
Yeah, completely agree. Lloris just looks to be, I don't know, he's just declining. But I think this has been coming now for about 2 seasons that he has been on the decline. He's just ended up coming in clutch when he's been needed, and that's just the way it's been for the last few years. Tottenham just look so bad under Conte. It's a surprise, because Conte is such a serial winner. He is a very, very well respected and a really good manager, but they just don't look good enough. But again, their squad is, in my opinion, it's like not a squad that would compete for top 4 consistently, in my opinion. They've got some really good players in there, like Son. Again, they're having a season where things are going wrong for them. Like, Son's not on form. Harry Kane's not scoring as many goals as he would before, and yeah, they just look shocked. But Arsenal, honestly, at the moment, look like unbeatable. They look so good. Saka, Odegaard, absolutely fantastic. Martinelli, fantastic. Thomas Partey in midfield has been an absolute rock for them this season. And yeah, they just look so good. Again, they're probably the team that I enjoy watching the most in the league this season. And in terms of how they play football. So yeah, they just look fantastic. And it's been a notoriously difficult place for Arsenal to go in for a long time now, playing away in the North London derby, but they just looked so comfortable. Obviously, Spurs were just so poor. I couldn't even, when I was watching that, I was like, they actually are terrible. I don't know if they're terrible, but they just playing really badly. And yeah, they didn't look great against Arsenal at all. So that would have been a very, very hard pill to swallow for, obviously, in the North London derby. So we'll see if he's backed it in this window. I'm not sure he will be or not, but he has been so far, and that's what he asked for when he came. So we'll see, because everyone was shouting in the summer that Tottenham had probably the best window. So I was like, okay, well, we'll see. I said it was a great window for them, but yeah, well, I don't know what's going to happen with them at the moment.
Yeah, and I don't know quite what's going wrong. So if we have any Spurs fans that have watched them and know exactly what's happening, I mean, I could speak to Antonio Conte, at least at his time at Chelsea, that he has like very positive first season, obviously came in to win the league, and then everything kind of just turned sour in the second season. So I don't know if maybe that's happening, if there's anything with the board, like maybe he wants to be backed more than he has been backed, at least in the January transfer window. But Spurs aren't a team that are necessarily going to go splashing out like 200 million, every window as well. Jack says, this is why my club is a shambles. We got beat 4-0 by Spurs. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm sorry. I'm just taking a look at the Premier League table. Crystal Palace, yeah, they're in 12th, 4 losses in their last 5 games. And I think the rough thing is that they faced Man United twice in the span of 3 weeks, essentially. They face Man United at home, Newcastle at home, Man United away, and then Brighton, Brentford, Liverpool. So it's definitely not an easy run of fixtures coming up as well. And Spurs, with that loss, they're still in 5th in the Premier League table, so maybe not as bad as maybe we would have thought based off of that performance. They have 33 points, and United are in 4th with 38 points. But I tell you, I'm just looking at kind of the middle of this Premier League table, and it really is quite tight. Like, Brighton and Liverpool both have a game in hand. They have 18 games played versus Brentford and Chelsea that have 19 played. But Chelsea are on 28 points, Fulham are in 6th with 31 points. So basically, if you win the game in hand that you have, you leapfrog maybe, depending on other things, from 10th to 6th. So anything can really happen. Everton currently in the relegation zone. I can't believe that. I wasn't going to talk about Everton, West Ham as well. Like, you think that they really could get relegated this season?
I had never thought that they would. In fact, I'm almost sure Everton have never been relegated. I don't think. I really can't think of them ever being relegated anywhere. I'm sure they haven't. So it will be massive if Everton went down. But they just escaped it last season by a couple of points. So it was basically coming anyway. And they haven't changed too much. They've obviously stuck with Lampard, who they believed in and whatever, but he's just not getting the results. West Ham, I don't know what is going on at West Ham. Like, I genuinely don't, because they've spent money on really good players as well, on decent quality players. I know at the start of the season, 2 of their signings were out long term, but still, they have a really good team. In my opinion, they've obviously had European football for the last 2 or 3 years, I think now. Obviously, I know Conference League and things like that, but they have been there. They've been in and around the top 8, top 7. So for them to be where they are right now, I genuinely haven't focused as much on them, because it's crazy when Newcastle aren't down there. I don't know what is going on as much at the bottom of the table. Like, you just don't pay as much attention, which I obviously never thought I would be in that position. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched much of their games this season, but I just don't know what is going on with them at all. I really don't. And I think I was listening to a couple of West Ham fans this morning on the radio, and they had said they know now, just based off the way that they play, based off everything that's happening, if they don't change something and if they don't start getting results, then they honestly believe that they're going down. And to see a club like West Ham be relegated from the other side of things, obviously, because it's usually we're normally in and around the relegation battle, to see a big club like West Ham to get relegated, it'll be a very big surprise. But honestly, I think there's about 4 or 5 teams on 15 points. I think there's like 2 points separating like 13th downwards, which is just crazy. So yeah, we're going to see some big teams go down this season, and it's going to be a big shock, I think.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, I've just kind of been, uber focused on Chelsea, the top, the top 4 race, what's going on with Arsenal, kind of, mid-table, what Chelsea are doing. I haven't paid so much attention to the bottom of the table, and I just took a look and I was absolutely shocked. And the thing is, with these big teams that have really good players, like, I doubt that they're going to have any clause like for relegation in their contracts or anything like that. So I think, like, that could be absolutely detrimental, because maybe these players decide, hey, I'm not going to stay and play in the championship. I'm going to go, find a team in the Premier League that can take me. So I think that that's bananas. And it's a big game coming up, because it's going to be West Ham versus Everton this weekend. So that's going to be probably massive in the relegation battle, which I never thought that I would say. But that wraps up our Premier League game week 20 roundup. We're going to be here every single week, and maybe get some guests in as well. Maybe have some other panelists. So if there's anybody that you want to see join, definitely let me know in the comments. And if really there's any improvements or any graphics or anything that you want to see, I definitely want to try to develop some graphics over the next couple of weeks to get in. So kind of let me know what you'd like to see. But Ken, as always, thanks so much for joining, and let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you. It's always super fun. Yeah, this is just I was gonna go over there, but it's not. It's here. This is just my handle on all my socials, so YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and Twitch as well. You'll be if you search Kendall, and I'm pretty sure you'll find me if you would like to. So yeah.
Yeah, and thanks, Stephen, for this lovely comments. Really, really appreciate it. We'll be back every single Monday night going over the Premier League fixtures and action from the weekend. So hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever time you're watching this. Until next time, we're out. Bye.